Hello everyone, welcome to Fun with Zoology. Now in the syllabus of zoology that is taught in the semester 1 of graduation, there are actually two life cycles that you have to study under the classification of protozoa. That is, you have to study Plasmodium and the life cycle of Entamoeba. The Plasmodium was covered in the earlier lecture video, and today's lecture is about the life cycle of Entamoeba histolytica. So let's begin. First of all, we must know that what is a disease that is caused by this parasite. This Entamoeba histolytica, it is considered to be a parasite. It is a protozoan, that is, it is a single-celled organism, and the disease that is caused by Entamoeba histolytica is amoebiasis. It is caused due to the infection of this parasitic amoeba, and actually maximum of the patients or the people who are infected with Entamoeba are asymptomatic. They do not show any symptoms, but when this disease is symptomatic, then it can cause dysentery and invasive extraintestinal problems. Now the cause or the agent behind this disease is Entamoeba histolytica, which causes amoebiasis, and this disease is contagious. That means it can spread from one person to another, and it can stay contagious for weeks to years if it is not treated properly. Now the major risk factors that are for this disease are actually consuming of contaminated food or contaminated water, or any contamination that can be given by the food handlers if their hands are not properly cleaned, and then if any contact with any medical devices such as contaminated colonic irrigation devices can also they can also be a risk factor, and even pregnant women can have the risk of having this or getting this disease. Now actually, when I told that in the earlier slide I told you that actually maximum of the people who are infected with Entamoeba are asymptomatic, but 10 to 20% of the individuals actually they carry the symptoms, and these symptoms include loose stool, and there can be mild abdominal cramping, there frequent or watery stools or bloody stools. That means stools can contain little amount of blood, with severe abdominal cramping, which is called as amoebic dysentery. There can be flatulence, there can be loss of appetite, and there can be fatigue in the patient or in the person, because actually that person undergoes dehydration due to this frequent watery stool. Now we shall discuss about the geographic distribution, or where can you find amoeba, this Entamoeba histolytica. So Entamoeba actually it occurs worldwide, and it is frequently recovered from the fresh water that is contaminated with human fecal matter, and the majority of the amoebiasis disease these cases are found in the developing countries where there is poor sanitary conditions. So as I told you, this amoebiasis is a parasitic disease. It's also called amoebic dysentery, and it is caused by infection from Entamoeba histolytica. So most of the individuals do not have any symptom, and actually only 10% of the people who are infected have the symptoms or show the symptoms. And this Entamoeba, it is single celled, it is flask shaped, but it can change its shape, and it can produce this amoebic dysentery, and sometimes it can form the invasive extraintestinal problems, which is called invasive amoebiasis. That is very common, and there can be also liver abscesses, and this parasite can also infect other organs. So this disease is very common in the tropical areas with very poor sanitary or hygienic conditions. Now what causes this disease? So first of all, the people who drink contaminated water, that is, if you do not drink boiled water or filtered water, then you can have the risk of getting the disease. So any person who drinks contaminated water or contaminated food, that can have the cyst form of the disease, which is the infective stage of the disease. Then person can get infected with the disease. Also it comes with contaminated colonic irrigation devices, or fecally contaminated hands of the food handlers. So by these ways any person can get infected with Entamoeba histolytica, and the infective stage is the cyst. So the cyst, once it reaches or enters the body of a healthy human, then the cyst form changes into trophozoite. The trophozoite is actually the invasive form. So infective form is cyst and invasive form is the trophozoite. So these trophozoites are the cyst ruptures and trophozoites are released in the ileum or colon. In both the places they can release, and these trophozoites then invade the mucosal barrier of the colon, and then they can destroy the barrier, they can destroy the tissue, and they can cause diarrhea. These trophozoites can reach the portal blood circulation and ultimately reach the liver, where they can form liver abscesses, and they can go to other organs and infect those organs as well. So every year, actually 50,000 to 1 lakh deaths occur worldwide due to amoebiasis, which is quite so we have, it is very important because we have to eradicate this disease or control or prevent this disease. Now we shall begin with the life cycle, that is the main part of today's topic. So the life cycle actually starts with the cyst. So as you know that any contaminated food, any contaminated water can contain the cyst, which is the infective stage. So the cyst or trophozoites can pass through the fecal matter of any infected human being. Now this cyst can be found in the stool, and the trophozoites are found in the diarrheal stool. So infection with Entamoeba histolytica occurs via ingestion of this mature cyst from the fecally contaminated food or water or hands. So by these ways the cyst can enter the body of any healthy human being. Next, the excistation occurs. That means once the cyst has entered the colon or the gut of any healthy human, the cyst ruptures, and it ruptures in the small intestine, and the trophozoites that are present in the cyst, these trophozoites are released. They migrate to the large intestine. So excistation occurs in the small intestine, and the trophozoites then migrate to the large intestine. Now the trophozoites may remain confined to the intestinal lumen, that is the non-invasive infection. But with individuals, it can continue to pass the cyst in the stools. That means any individual who are having this non-invasive infection where the trophozoites are confined to the wall of the intestinal lumen, then they can pass on cyst through the stool, and the stool can contaminate the food and water. So this is these people are the asymptomatic carriers, because themselves they are not affected by the disease or they do not have any symptoms, but they pass on the stools in the environment and contaminate the environment, and they can act as carriers of the cyst, which is the infective stage. So by this way the cyst enters the environment. Now the trophozoites, which have already invaded to the large intestine, sometimes they can invade the intestinal mucosa and they cause the intestinal disease. So within the large intestine, the trophozoites can invade into the intestinal mucosa, causing intestinal disease. They can invade the blood vessel. They can reach the extra intestinal sites, means any other organs other than the intestine, like the liver or the brain or the lungs. Now these are the extra intestinal sites, and if they reach these organs, then they cause extra intestinal disease. So these trophozoites can reach the liver, forming liver abscesses, or they can reach the lungs, or they can reach the brain. Anywhere they can go via the blood circulation. Now the trophozoites actually multiply by binary fission, so they multiply very fast and in large quantities, and they produce the cyst. So again these trophozoites produce cyst, and both these stages, that is the trophozoite as well as the cyst stages, pass through the fecal matter of the infected human being into the environment. So cyst and trophozoites are released in the environment and they remain there. So the cyst can actually survive for weeks in the environment. They are not harmed by the harsh environmental conditions, so they can stay outside the human body for weeks or days, and they can be infectious, because means if they are ingested by any other human being, then they can cause infection to the person as well, and they are also very well protected from the harsh environmental conditions, because these cysts have a very hard covering. And the trophozoites, which are passed through the stool, actually they are very rapidly destroyed in the outer environment whenever they are released outside the body, and if they are ingested by any other human, then actually they do not survive and actually they cannot survive the acidic gastrointestinal juices. So that's why the trophozoites actually die when they are ingested by any other human being. So for this reason, the cysts are actually infective stage, because they can survive these intestinal juices and ultimately reach the small intestine, where the cyst ruptures and the trophozoites are released. So in this way the life cycle occurs. So again I'm recapitulating, that is first of all, the cysts are released by any infective human being into the environment. These cysts are then ingested by any healthy human. The cyst enters the small intestine, where the cyst ruptures, the trophozoites are released, the trophozoites then reach the large intestine. From there they can remain as a non-invasive form and pass on as stool and contaminate the environment. These are the carriers, they are asymptomatic, but if the disease becomes invasive, then the trophozoites can reach other extra intestinal organs like liver or brain or lungs, and the trophozoites can multiply by binary fission. They can form cyst, and then they can again pass on through the stool and infect the other humans by contaminating the food and water. In this way, the total life cycle of Entamoeba histolytica continues. The first stage, that is first these cysts are given out in the environment, these cysts are ingested, then they enter the intestine of the healthy human being, infecting the human, then the excitation occurs, trophozoites are released, trophozoites multiply, then they remain in the body of the human and they can also form cyst. This cyst again goes out into the environment in the form through the stool, and again they can infect the other human, just starting the process again or starting the life cycle again. So in this way the total life cycle of Entamoeba histolytica continues. Now we shall see that how the clinical presentation of this disease occurs. So majority of the infections are actually restricted to the lumen of the intestine. So it is called luminal amoebiasis, and these are asymptomatic. But amebicolitis or invasive intestinal amoebiasis occurs when the mucosa is invaded. So the symptoms in this case, that is in the invasive form, can include severe dysentery, then there can be severe complications, then there can be abdominal cramping. Severe chronic infections can also lead to complications such as peritonitis, perforations, and the formation of amoebic granulomas, which are called amoeboma. Then amoebic liver abscesses are also a very common manifestation of the extraintestinal amoebiasis, when liver abscesses are formed when the trophozoites reach the liver through the portal blood circulation. So in this way the clinical presentation of the disease occurs. Now at last we shall see that how this disease can be treated. So if any person is asymptomatic, then that person will not know that he or she is infected with Entamoeba, and in that case that person will not undergo any treatment. So these asymptomatic infections are not treated. But if they are present in endemic areas, then actually everyone is treated with the drugs. But if the patients are shedding Entamoeba histolytica cyst, then the following luminal agents are used, that are paromomycin or iodoquinol or diloxanide furoate. These luminal agents are used if the cysts are given out in the form through the stool. Now if the disease has become invasive, so to treat the invasive amoebiasis, metronidazole is recommended, and even it is recommended for the amoebic liver abscesses. Even up to, if the abscess is 10 cm size, then also this metronidazole is recommended. Now tinidazole is FDA approved, and it is used to treat both intestinal as well as extraintestinal or invasive amoebiasis. Amoebic colitis can be treated with nitroimidazoles, and again they can be followed, or they should be followed with treatment by any luminal agent that has been described in the previous slide. Now treatment of hepatic amoebiasis has been successful in some patients who have been treated with chloroquine or dihydroemetic. Now if the gastrointestinal tract is suspected to be perforated, that is, perforation can occur with fulminant amoebic colitis. So if the gastrointestinal tract is suspected to be perforated, then broad spectrum antibiotics are given to the patient to prevent peritonitis. So this was all about the treatment of Entaeba histolytica, means these drugs can be used to treat amoebiasis. And that was all about the life cycle of Entaeba histolytica and the disease cause, the symptoms, and the treatment of this disease. So if you have any doubt, then you can obviously ask the question in the comment section, and I can answer them as well. So that's all for today. In the next lecture video, I shall start with the locomotion or reproduction in the protozoans. So that's all. Thank you.